Next, I want to talk to you about the sync function, which is, well, it's a really extensive function on the synthesizer due to the architecture. And let's talk about that. Okay, so we have oscillator 1 going right now, sawtooth wave. Now, when we press the sync button, wow, it sounds exactly the same. What's happening is sync is when the reset of the waveform, the sawtooth waveform in this instance, of VCO1, it is reset every time that the oscillator on VCO2's oscillator restarts its waveform. And since right now they're set to pretty much the same thing at the same frequency, it's not going to make a tremendous difference. But when we change the frequency of VCO1, you're going to notice some pretty serious differences. Obviously, the frequency of VCO1 now doesn't change because it is forced to reset at the speed of VCO2. So when we change its frequency, it's still trying to do that, and that's what's generating that really cool sound that we get. So you can set it to things that the tuning is completely wrong. Now it's set to A flat, and you'll just get a different timbre. And you'll get a different timbre, especially when you change waveform. It all has kind of that sync sound to it. So instead of, before we even talk about the thing that we usually talk about with sync, which is that song, that sound from the Cars song, it is a source, and people don't use it as this enough. It's really just a source of generating new wave shapes for new timbres. So if you modulate the wave shape, you'll get a lot of different timbres. And they're slightly different than they would be if you didn't have the sync on. Now, if you want to talk about the standard application of the sync, that the most common, oft used application of sync is when you apply an envelope to the pitch of the synced oscillator. So let's do that. How do we do that? Well, we're going to have to go into the X mod and apply the filter envelope to the frequency of VCO1. So that's a really cool effect, and that's why it's been used so frequently. And we can also listen to VCO2. We don't have to just limit this to VCO1. And we can also change VCO2's wave shape. If we change VCO2's frequency, it's going to change the frequency of everything. So that's not as exciting. But it really makes a huge, huge sound on the synthesizer. So let's bring in the sub-octave. Well, the sub-octave is affected because the sub-octave comes off of oscillator 1. Wow, that's so big. You can really get some really wild things going on. Okay, Let's also see what happens. Okay, we're going to do something here. We're going to take off that filter envelope, and we're going to listen to what it does to the shape of the wave shape. So if we change the wave shape of oscillator 1 with the filter envelope, we might get some interesting sounds. Yes, so what we're doing is we're just creating kind of an attack transient that's different. And this is all in sync, you know, so there's so much more you can do with sync. Oh, that's interesting. Wow. And we don't have to stop there. We can also modulate the pitch of VCO1, which affects the sync effect, using the LFO. So let's add LFO to VCO1's frequency. Of course, we don't have to have it. We can have it go faster. And because we have the filter envelope also affecting the pitch, that along with the LFO affects how the LFO is going to affect the pitch. You see, you get into really crazy and interesting territory. And we could slow the LFO frequency down. We're not even using the filter here, and we've already got, again, super cool sounds. And we can also affect the pulse width. Let's see what happens when we put VCO1 to the square wave and then affect its pulse width. Wow. Did you hear how that sound evolved over that time? Yeah. I know I said it a lot with the Prophet 6, but when you use the cross mod and then use it with the complexity, the functionality of this design as well as the Prophet 6 design, you can create some extremely complex and varying sounds that vary greatly over time. And then, like we said in the oscillator videos, like you can get, when you have pulse width modulation going on, by changing the wave shape, you're going to get less pulse width modulation and whatever the other wave shape is, in this instance, sawtooth. So that affects how the pulse width modulation affects the wave shape of oscillator 1 as it is synced to oscillator 2. So we're not limited to just the typical Cars sound here. So a lot can be done with the sync function, and I still haven't even really entirely, touched on every single thing you could do. There's a lot of possibilities, and you get right out of the typical analog sound and right into some exciting craziness. It's just, it's really a lot of fun. Now I've applied the pulse width to oscillator 2. Some really, really great sound opportunities there. And so immediately and easily created.